Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview founders, entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, amazing people all around the world of crypto and blockchain. And today I bring to you a name that I've known in the industry, I've heard of in the industry, this is our first time meeting today. His name is Anthony Day. He is the marketing director of VeChain. Anthony, welcome.
Jamil, thank you so much. We finally made it happen.
Finally, yes, I'm looking forward to it. And I think you were around when I was an ICO advisor back in 2017.
So I was just getting started there. Back in the day, we were thinking when I was working with Deloitte, would we provide an ICO out-of-the-box service for would-be token-based projects? And that was midway through all of that exciting era. And I think if we'd done that at the time, we probably would have bankrupted Deloitte or done very many dodgy things because it was very hard to qualify what was good, what was bad. Those were exciting times.
Yeah, they were. I wouldn't trade it for anything. So awesome. So I want to find out first from you, like, what is your background, and is it a logical background for what you're doing now at VeChain?
What an interesting way of framing that question. Obviously, nobody was ever born into Web3. I think everybody did something before finding their way into blockchain. And my story was not one of reading the Bitcoin white paper and suddenly falling down the rabbit hole. It's a little bit more traditional in terms of I started through digital technology, software delivery, innovation. I spent most of my career working for large organizations and enterprises trying to build innovative technology, digital wallets, payment solutions, digital marketing platforms to help them grow. So I always came from a background of my very first job was working for Michael Porter's consulting company, and he knew a thing or two about growth back in the day. And so my fundamentals are all around how do you engage customers better? How do you create a more profitable business? How do you accelerate growth with technology? And I gradually kind of got closer and closer to decentralized technology, started working in Deloitte days back in 2017 for their global blockchain center of excellence as COO, worked with Antonio Senatore, then the CTO of Deloitte's blockchain team, now the CTO of VeChain, which is one of the reasons I'm here. And at that time, I was excited at what more could be done with decentralized technology, with distributed ledgers, with tokens, and gradually over time found my way to IBM and then closer and closer to layer one protocols, because in reality, that's where I found the most innovative thinking, the most also organizations in need of structure, coordination, and a little bit of experience were at the time. And so I spent some time in the Polkadot ecosystem, some time with Cardano and Midnight, and now VeChain. And I would not swap it for anything else.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So I want to find out, VeChain is all about. It's a name from the past, right? But I want to find out what that's all about, your vision and your mission, and what you guys have been up to, and what you're doing now,
Everybody has I remember VeChain moment. I think as soon as they see VeChain, the logo, the name, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember those guys. In 2018, they were really big. And I feel a little bit sad when I hear that. Obviously, I'm still relatively new to the ecosystem. I'm here a few months, and my job is really helping people to take a second look at what VeChain's been working on in the last 5 years, specifically the last two, because I think we're doing more in the real world assets, real world actions space, and more to get everyday real world Web3 and crypto adoption than almost any other layer one chain that isn't Bitcoin. And so from that perspective, my ask is for people out there to take a second look at VeChain, because the team is relentless. They've been delivering upgrades to the technology, partnerships, over 300 brand partnerships with large organizations that you know well by name. They've been delivering an innovative platform the last 2 years called VBetter, which is focused around rewarding everyday individuals for doing better for themselves, for their community, for the planet, by using all of the Web3 crypto primitives in applications you can download on your mobile phone, right? That don't have complicated UX, that don't have difficult crypto journeys that most everyday people won't understand. There's 5 million users using VeChain's applications or applications built on VeChain that are rewarding people for using sustainable coffee mugs, for cleaning up after their dog, for recycling plastic, for getting out there and moving or working out, for shopping locally and supporting their local community. All things that do good for people, that do good for the planet, that do good for organizations, for brands. This is crypto technology. This is Web3 technology being used at scale every day without a UX challenge, where it's a triple bottom line. It's good for you as an individual. It's good for the organizations that are building those apps. There's a profit model behind it. It's good for the planet. This is what VeChain is doing in 2025, has been doing consistently for the last number of years. And unfortunately, that hasn't come to the surface yet. And that's why I'm here to talk about. That's why I want to tell as many people as I possibly can about it. That's why I'm here working at VeChain. That's the whole story. I put this stage of my career against it because I think VeChain is doing more for real world adoption by everyday humans, as opposed to large financial institutions where obviously a lot of decentralized technology is being explored today, and that's still valuable and useful and interesting. But I want the rest of the mass adoption. I want the next billion people using Web3 and crypto technology and VeChain's technology on their mobile phone. And that's what I'm excited to share more about.
Awesome. So let's do that. Let's investigate that. What do you think will be the next wave of Web3 adoption? And please don't say leverage.
Yeah, there's no crying in the 50x leverage casino. That's a really great point to make, actually, because I posted something on Monday, or maybe it was Sunday this week, tongue in cheek a little bit about LinkedIn only ever showing you things from 3 weeks ago and everything being fine in Web3 when I look at LinkedIn. The more important point, I think, is you can't avoid the fact that when you look at Web3 and particularly cryptocurrencies, there's a component of that which is speculative investment in what you could consider analogous to high growth tech stocks. People investing and using leverage against digital assets of which ecosystems or which coins or which meme coins are going to go up and down. That's a little bit of a part of our industry. But on the other side of that is technology utility, not narrative and speculation, but actual transactions, actual users, use of smart contracts, use of ledgers, tokenization of assets and tokenization of things. If you dial down the noise of the speculative ups and downs of the trading world, as you could do the same with Wall Street and FTSE 100 or Fortune 500 stocks, and you focus in on those teams that are genuinely building, those teams that have actual users, those technologies that have a business case behind it, you take a very, very different look at the top 100 or the top 50 projects on CoinMarketCap or in Web3 in general. And that's my guidance to most people who kind of lose their stuff around, crypto's up, crypto's down, prices are up, prices are down. It's like, this is trading, or this is the markets. This isn't about technology adoption. And so I've always focused on those projects or supported those projects or joined and worked with those projects that I believe have actual utility. And the nice thing is about the next wave of Web3 adoption will be funded by those institutions and organizations that share the same view. We've been through the initial cycle of retail investment and individuals getting excited about being able to support projects that they can with their 401ks or with their supplemental cash. It's clear now, because of regulatory easing, that institutional capital is going to be able to come to Web3. That's going to have one of two effects. Thing one is that's going to be able to, I don't say manipulate, but take advantage of an open market for cryptocurrencies that can go up and down. Capital talks, the ability to deploy capital to places where they can win and earn rewards and to take profit, will have an impact over those more traditional traders that have smaller bags. But I said, we're not here to talk about trading. We're not here to talk about leverage. We're not here to talk about all of that stuff. On the other side, if you think about institutions investing in projects that have a return on investment, right, that are not based on narrative, that are not based on some sort of meme value or community sentiment that is transient, that capital will flow to projects that have a clear niche, that have clear differentiation, that have a profit model that is understandable by financial institutions. And sitting here in the seat of VeChain, I feel very confident about that, because that is exactly the story that we've been telling since the very beginning, since 2018. This project's been around for 10 years, 8 years on mainnet. And so that has consistently been Sunny Lu's vision. That has consistently been his direction, is we're here to focus on adoption. It started in 2018 with proof that B2B applications using decentralized technology is valuable. The use of blockchains or decentralized ledgers to record shared transactions or verify activity on the supply chain. Those use cases are still strong. The value is still there. The size of that market in B2B SaaS is probably different to maybe what the early speculation and narrative was. That's fine, because that's narrative and speculation, but there's still transactions being done by huge global MNCs on VeChain that is still part of our story and continues to be. But the move into B2C and those applications that individuals can use every day, making use of all the crypto primitives, and we'll get into that in a minute, rather than just the distributed or decentralized ledger, that's been part of the journey all along. And it's very easy to go and then talk to an institution to say, this is VeChain's story. This is what we're good at. This is why we're differentiated. And so you never know in Web3 how one day is going to go to the next, but it's very easy to feel confident when you can say what we're doing has utility. The organizations we're working with are established in the world and understand the value that we bring. And we're using blockchain technology amongst many others in the application stack to deliver actual P&L value to organizations and individuals or founders who are building apps. That's a really clear story for me.
Yeah, it sounds good. You mentioned the price action, and you see a lot of accounts on social media shilling price. No one shows utility, right? They don't shill crypto primitives, right? So
we're trying.
How do you get the message through when everybody through the noise of the price noise? How do you get the message through? Hey, say we have some really excellent primitives here. We have some really excellent utility. This is what is. How do you get that? How do you break through that?
I think you have to do it with quiet confidence, and part of that is continually building with partners that understand the mission. When I look at who do I want to work with, or who are the brands or organizations that I want to build on the VeBetter platform, for example, in some cases they come to me and saying, we understand that VeChain has a focus on sustainability or doing better. That's a mission that we share. And by the way, we're interested in exploring, what does blockchain, Web3, tokenization technology do for us? I get, at this point in time at sports, a lot of interest on the sports side around tokenization, fan engagement, and being able to use cryptocurrencies and tokens in order to drive engagement there. And so it's a very easy conversation. I understand the drivers of their business. I understand the ways in which engaging with customers and fans every day can help improve their bottom line. And so it becomes a very natural conversation. I'm not screaming about that necessarily on Twitter, because I don't need 100,000 angry degens to support that business development effort. When we've signed the deal, when we've brought people onto the platform, and when they're using our technology for real, that's going to speak for itself. And I think that was the case in 2018. It's the expansion out into working with VeBetter and into more of a B2C centric platform. It's taken a little while to build that. But if you look at Mugshot or Green Card, Mugshot is an application on VeBetter that allows you to earn rewards for using a reusable coffee mug, right? So if I take an image of my coffee mug here, it is reusable. It is not paper. It is not single use. So if I take a picture of this coffee mug, I put it onto the Mugshot platform, the AI validates that this is a coffee mug, that there is coffee in it, and it is a sustainable mug. They will reward me. And there are 2 million users on that platform. Green Cart is more focused on organic and local shopping. And if you submit your shopping receipt, then you're going to earn rewards for shopping locally. And those both have 2 million users on the platform. VeBetter overall has 5 million users on the platform. And the users of those applications are talking to their networks about this. And very quickly, you see the growth of users on the platform, wallets on VeBetter, growing exponentially. We're now doing 1 million tokenized real world actions every week based on applications like this. And this is before we've got the big brands on board, right? So if you imagine brands or sporting platforms that have hundreds of millions of fans, or large manufacturers who have hundreds of thousands of users. Another such example for VeBetter is an application called EV-Earn. EV-Earn rewards you for charging your Tesla and using battery-powered renewable energy, or more sustainable form of transport. In that case, it's connected directly to the Tesla API. So we have near perfect retention on that application, because if you connect and if you're charging your Tesla every day, you're earning rewards for making a sustainable choice, right? These are really good things. These are very sticky things. And the word of mouth does part of that for me. So again, I'm not necessarily interested in just the 100,000 angry degens on Twitter, because the real world users of these applications go far beyond the established Web3 community or the crypto Twitter group. The size of the overall pie for us is so much larger. We work with UFC and Dana White. Their audience is nearly 1 billion people. Yeah. And so my interest is to try and talk about doing better for yourself, your community, and for the planet to that audience, and helping them understand applications that can help them do better. Not everybody who's watching a UFC fight is necessarily super excited about saving the planet, right? We know that demographic is very broad, but many of them can start with, look, I just want to do better for myself. So we launched an app in partnership with UFC called Build Your Body, BYB. And that's helping people just to get a little bit fitter every day. If you do your lunges, if you do your squats, if you do a range of movements every day, you're going to earn and be rewarded for doing that. And that's also under the UFC umbrella. So while you're doing these activities, you're reminding yourself of the UFC. You might be kind of going back and looking at UFC content, or kind of continuing to have the UFC brand in the front of your mind. And that's building intimacy. That's building connectivity to their digital platforms. And that's helping their audience to stay sticky, to stay retained, and give them back something for being part of the UFC community. That's how we're doing it. That word of mouth, that growth is slow, steady, but based on firm fundamentals. It's not as exciting as a rapid high pump, then typically followed by a rapid decline of some kind. Sunny, I think, has always been build for utility, take a long-term view, and in the end, the good will out. And I stand by that. We're not here for hype. We're here for demonstrating real value.
I love it. I have a reusable coffee mug too. It says the dog likes me best. So I wish I had it here. I'd show you. But yeah. So
well, there you go. Get onto Be Better. Get onto Scoop Up, and the next time that you take your dog for a walk and you clean up after your dog, you're going to earn rewards from Be Better.
I like it. I take her every day. So
and you'll get rewards for the steps you put in as well.
That sounds good to me too. I went to the gym this morning. I had struggled for the last 2 months with 30-pound military press dumbbells. Today I did them and they were light. I was like, I don't know what happened overnight, but I'm good now. So we'll go next round. So I want to find out, that sustainability you talked about, how you reward everyday eco actions, and gamify that sustainability. I mean, one of the things is it's earning rewards for the walking the dog, which I'm going to do. But how else do you reward eco friendly actions?
So there's a very broad spectrum of about 50 applications on Be Better that, somewhat by design, but also by market forces, we've identified a number of individual sustainable actions over the course of a day that can help you, as I said, do better for yourself, for your community, for the planet. There's a range of horizons here, right, of what sustainable actions, or what doing better, as we prefer to call it, is about. Because I think everybody at this point has had SDGs or sustainability rammed down their throat, told that you should do this because otherwise terrible consequences. And we're not contesting any of that. It's just the messaging was all wrong. And most people who are out there who are trying to do better every day will do it, but then up to a point, we've learned that if you don't incentivize people for doing something, typically they're not gonna do it. Something that's given for free is often not valued. And so we want to try and acknowledge that, to try and encourage that, but also then you start creating a little bit of a flywheel effect of, if people see they're being rewarded, they feel more motivated. If they're being rewarded, they'll tell their friends about it. That word of mouth will travel, and then very quickly you start coalescing an entire community of interest. In the case of Be Better, 5 million individuals who are excited and mission aligned and passionate about that. And the nice thing about Be Better is somebody who's coming in here to maybe do better for themselves and getting a few steps every day and being rewarded for that, then may also suddenly find, actually, I'm kind of interested in recycling, and maybe I could be doing more there. Or actually, what it is, I'm going to think a little bit more about my shopping, or what I eat, or what I consume, or how much I use my mobile device. And so we're gradually adding more moments over the course of the day for people to earn. Obviously, there's a financial element to this too, clearly, that's underpinned by the treasury of the Be Better DAO, which, for those people who, DAO will mean something more or less to other people, but that's another one of the core crypto primitives that we're using, and we can get into that in a little bit more detail. But gradually you start to create that network effect. You start to create that word of mouth, and the more parties that join the ecosystem, the more apps that join the ecosystem, the more enterprises, organizations, sporting organizations, governments that build using this technology, the bigger that flywheel gets, the more activity, the more transactions we do, the more value you get. And then you start genuinely creating that giant network of better actions every day. I can run down a number of statistics today on, we've had over 40 million sustainable actions tokenized. We do, again, more than about 1 million tokenized real world actions every week. In the grand scheme of 8 billion people on the planet, that's not enormous yet. But if you look at the growth curve of that, it is absolutely exponential. because people are using more apps, more people are spreading that as word of mouth. And in a few weeks' time, we'll be doing 2 million. In a few more weeks' time, we'll be doing 10 million. And so that's the compounding effect of the incentives, the gamification, which makes it easy. The fact that it's based on a mobile device. So with your phone, you can do something that's quick and easy every day. And we haven't even got into agents and the agentic element of this as well, also, because as we start seeing more automation through AI, or AI and agents embedding themselves more into our digital life or into our everyday, you take away some of the user experience pain points of, if I want to use 20 apps in the day, it's kind of a pain to have to remember which one to open and when. Whereas agents will probably be able to prompt us to do those things, or make it more digestible, or make it more sustainable and easy to use from a user experience perspective in your everyday life. This is part of the next horizon of where we're going. Where we look for inspiration, obviously, is the UN SDGs is a great place to start. But as long as the organizations that we work with, or the apps that are building on the platform, have some sort of focus around helping people to do better, and you can create a meaningful commercial model from the application, because it's not really just about draining the treasury on a regular basis. What we want is applications that actually have a commercial model, or organizations whose commercial models benefit from using the VBetter technology, so that they can continue to support their customers, to continue to give rewards, and to continue to grow and evolve those applications. That's the overall story.
Great. So let's dive into a couple of things that you mentioned there. I want to get some more detail on. The first one is I was going to ask you about your gamification capabilities. So you mentioned the DAO. So I want to find out how your DAO works, and then how also you're reshaping loyalty and engagement through the DAO, and then I'll get into the agentic AI after that.
Got you. So the DAO is, I think in the early days of DAOs, we saw that we could create a community-governed digital structure that has a means for creating value through cryptocurrencies, and then managing the treasury, the actions, the technology, the upgrades around what happens. And you started to see some of those community-led principles appear in layer ones. And then you also saw DAOs existing in entirety in their own entity, right? They look a little bit like venture capital, or they look a little bit like family offices, or whatever it could be. In our case, what we wanted to do is to create this entity that had a very clear purpose on sustainability and doing better, that was community governed. So you start creating a community of users and individuals who can vote in which applications make it onto the platform, who decide on a regular basis which applications are doing best, and to, as a result, get the larger share of the rewards from the platform on a monthly basis. And also just to help grow and support the ecosystem. And so a big part of that is creating a token and creating a treasury that has value, and a market is created around that token. That's the Better token, B3TR. And that is the token that is, as of last week, I think we're early October now. So as of early October, is also MiCA compliant in the EU. So this is a token that all apps use. Those apps then don't have to worry about individually launching their own token and having to go through tokenomics and market making and approvals and regulatory and wallets and integrations and so on. Projects that want to use this technology don't want to go through all the crypto rigmarole of setting up as a business. They want to launch apps. And this is the fundamental difference with how we think about the world at VeChain, is we're not looking at mass adoption of blockchain. We're looking at mass adoption of sustainable impact. We're looking at mass adoption of applications that help people to do better. And that's the big difference. I think in 2025, if you look across the top 50 smart contract blockchains, there's a huge amount of commonality between most of them. It's a ledger, it's a smart contract, it's a token, it's a wallet, it's digital identity of some kind, it's varying degrees of decentralization. I don't mean to be provocative, but in 2025, I would say there is almost no discernible differentiation between most blockchains for the basic features that an application needs to use. Of course, there's differences in innovation. Of course, every blockchain will tell you they're a little bit faster or a little bit more decentralized or a little bit greener, or have a private instance, or have zero knowledge technology for obfuscation of certain pieces of information that are sensitive in certain use cases. That's all great. But for the most part, there is not differentiation between blockchains, and most people don't care in the same way they don't care whether the application they use is on one cloud versus another, Oracle Cloud versus IBM Cloud versus Google versus Amazon. we don't care. What we want is an application that works, that helps us to do a job that's meaningful, and maybe if we're lucky, have fun using it along the way. And that's a lot of the fundamental principles that sit underneath VBetter. We've used those crypto primitives to be able to have applications use tokens to tokenize actions, to have a common regulatorily compliant cryptocurrency, to have a value that the treasury can then allocate to applications to act as a kind of reverse Kickstarter, if you will, or a kind of an alternative model to an accelerator. You then have community governance again, which allows the digital platform to grow, but to still maintain the values of the community appreciates, and so on and so forth. This is a significant advancement from the 2018 version of how blockchain technology was being used, mostly for distributed ledgers, mostly for just recording transactions on a blockchain, because that was cool and that was interesting and useful in certain B2B use cases. But now we've evolved to a point where we've used all the primitives. As I said, the ledger, smart contracts, tokenization of actions, cryptocurrency for store of value, the DAO structure for community voting, treasury, digital identity, and a wallet, all of them. And we've packaged that up in a way that it can be delivered onto applications that work on mobile devices of everyday humans that they can download from app stores and Google Play Store. That is mass adoption. That is the fundamentals for me of mass adoption on a B2C or in an individual user side of things. That's what we do, I think, better than anybody else.
I like it. I'm trying to think back. You said, the first thing you said to me, you did not read the Satoshi white paper and fall down the rabbit hole. I think in order to understand Bitcoin, I had to read the Satoshi white paper like 100 times. But during that 2017 and 18 year, I think I've read 5,000 white papers. Everybody
at least.
Yeah, at least. Everybody had a vision and a purpose and an overall grand scheme. None of them came to fruition. Okay. Now, I like what you said about the mass adoption of sustainable development. I can get behind that. How have we changed now? Like before, it was an idea, it was a concept. Now it's reality, right? So, how do you continue to grow the market, and what's going to be the role of agentic AI in being able to get you to that goal?
Love that question. How do you continue to grow? To me, it's about continuing to build meaningful partnerships to be able to demonstrate the use cases where that X to earn or action to earn model works, right? What you want is to be able to say, want to be able to see organizations with large followerships or large customer bases to say, I want one of those. I want engagement. I want to do better. I want digital engagement with my customers or my fan base. I want to use those primitives in my application. And it's easy, and so therefore I'll do it. Or, I see the VeChain team know this better than anybody else, so I'm going to work with them because my application could use some of that. It's not about creating necessarily a whole bunch of new applications. Oftentimes that's not practical for the organization we want to work with. So it's really about saying, how do we help you engage with your customers, with your fans on a day-to-day basis? And that's just going to be a slow, steady growth of the more people using the technology, the more people using the platform, the faster we grow. The more the word of mouth around the applications grows, the more people we see using them, the more the cross-pollination of people using Mugshot and people using Green Cart and people using, insert company name here or insert sports team here. Had a really interesting conversation with somebody from a Premier League football team the other day, who basically were talking about the differences between closed and open ecosystems. And so, well, if we create something that's closed for just our fan base, you're limiting that to just the 100,000, 50,000, whatever the number is, fans that you have every day. And essentially, you're creating a walled garden loyalty system that won't grow the pie in any way, shape, or form. It'll generate engagement, sure, but it doesn't help you grow the top of the funnel. Whereas if you make that open and you make your application digital and you allow anybody in the world to engage with your challenges or your action to earn models, you could all of a sudden have 1 million people or 100 million people in Indonesia, Pakistan, Nigeria, Russia, Brazil, engaging with your application, starting with the desire of earning rewards for doing better every day. That doing better can be playing sport, engaging with whatever it is that you want to do. It could be recycling, it could be doing something meaningful in the world, of course. That's the underlying principles here. But all of a sudden, you've tripled, quadrupled, 10x, 100x your fan base worldwide because you've created a digital experience, some gamification that they can engage with. We saw the growth of Axie Infinity probably 5 years ago now, and you started seeing people playing video games in the Philippines instead of doing alternative sorts of jobbing work because of the arbitrage that they could earn more money playing video games than doing the other things that they might otherwise do. That was a really interesting shift. I'm not saying, people should be playing video games for a living, but that was a really interesting shift in saying the economics of that model worked such that they could create a following of that size. You may see a similar thing where all of a sudden a football team starts creating $1 billion a billion user top of funnel because they get the gamification right. Now, not all of those fans are eventually going to start transitioning down into, going to London and watching a football match, but they have brand awareness. They suddenly understand the team. They suddenly start following. Maybe they start following digitally. Maybe they start posting about the team. Maybe they start watching matches. At different stages of the funnel, you're starting to get more and more and more people engaged. And that's how you grow a brand at scale. Not just about the in-game experience or the in-match experience or the physical in real life fan base. And the opportunities to engage, monetize, use the rewards that they gain for driving commercial outcomes back into the business are significant. And so this open ecosystem thinking, open model thinking, expansive top of funnel thinking, as soon as people start seeing that that's the potential that Web3 technology brings, you're going to start seeing a huge amount more engagement from a brand perspective, because it's not weird crypto shit anymore. Excuse my language, but at that point, it's not, oh, weird tokens. This is saying actually we've created a more effective, more global, more scalable, more interesting version of loyalty and gamification and engagement, and it works for everybody, and it's easy to use. Right? That's the where do we go next part. The agentic part, I think, is the next horizon. I think it's pretty clear for everybody that artificial intelligence and the agentic web is here now. It's not some sort of far off future thinking thing where, at some point AI will take hold. It's here right now. It's doing automation of activities, it's doing automation of inference, and it's doing tasks on behalf of users while they sleep or while they are unaware of what's going on in some way, shape, or form. We probably have not seen Gen 2 Clippy on our mobile devices starting to interact with our day-to-day lives in the way a digital EA might do, for example, but that's coming. And that's going to be embedded in wallets, that's going to be embedded in mobile devices. When that comes to be better, I think the interesting thing is, as I said, there are 50 applications today that people can use to earn rewards for doing better every day. I could ask an agent tomorrow, agent, I want you to allow me to do all 50 of these things today. And I want you to schedule it in my day in a way that is the least invasive. I want you to do the task on my behalf that I don't have to touch, which is maybe charge my vehicle or order my groceries. I can do that online, right? Or log my journeys onto the application from me having my smart device on my watch and cycling into work, whatever it is that I do. I want you to log all of this, and I want you to do it in the background. And I don't want to open a single app while that happens. And so on and so forth. And then I want you to schedule in my tasks and kind of try and condense them together at a time that makes sense so I can do the others. From a V-Better perspective, the agentic world will allow us to optimize the user experience of doing better more often, make it less painless. Make it more painless. The next stage is that agents can actually coalesce human activity, can build applications, and can manage value. So we may see agents launching applications on the VeBetter platform because somebody has tasked their agent to identify a particular business opportunity, to build an application, which they can do today, to run that application, which they can do today, to enhance and to build on top of that, to outreach to commercial sponsors, to post and grow a social following behind that application, which then in turn receives rewards, can make a grant proposal, and can go on running that application as a business in a semi, if not fully automated way. And, if you've seen any of the recent Mission Impossible movies where the entity is hiring people and having hitmen do things on its behalf, that's the slightly more sexy, Tom Cruise-y, explosive guns and spies and all sorts extent of it. But if you dial that concept back to just running an application that rewards people for doing sustainable actions, All of that could be entirely agent-led in future. The agent can have a wallet, it can understand the protocols, it can ask for improvements or updates to protocols. And so as you start looking into the future, you're starting to see layer one developer relations teams needing to respond to feedback from agents and new pull requests at the speed that the agents can create them, which is not, oh, we'll pick up a ticket on Friday and come back to it on Monday. It's actually, we've seen 500 ticket requests today. We need to be able to close them all by the end of today because that's important to the success of our platform. And so that necessitates the requirement for engineering teams to have agents that respond to the agents of builders and founders teams. And you get into this highly rapid, quick iteration cycle of the technology underneath the applications as well. Now, that's all, a lot more engineering focus, a lot more granular, less at the kind of, everyday understandable level for maybe some of the audience. But that's the future. And that's what we see coming next, that we can interpret from what we see now, right? It's almost impossible to predict where that goes with great degree of confidence 3 years from now. But these are the signals that we see, and this is what we're tracking towards. And if you go to vbetter.com, if you check out the vBetter 2.0 white paper, I know you love reading white papers. You probably have read enough white papers now. If you don't feel like reading it, you can feed it into your AI and you can ask the AI, whichever one you prefer, to create a podcast version that's 15 minutes long that's voiced over by Matthew McConaughey or Charlotte Church or whoever it is that you prefer to do your podcasts. Maybe yourself. Maybe you can create your own podcast of our white paper in 15 minutes where you can listen to yourself, explain it to yourself, whatever you'd like it to do. There are a number of signals that we've put into that vbetter.com white paper that will help people understand the direction of travel. And it's really, really exciting.
It sounds exciting. And it sounds like incredible growth that you've made over the past several years. So it's awesome. So I want to thank you very much for your time today. This has been an enjoyable conversation. I have one last question, really. It's easy. So how can people find out more information about you, about VeChain, about vBetter? How can they do that?
Super easy. VeChain is on all the platforms you can possibly find us on. We're on X, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on Telegram, all of the usual places. So you can go to vechain.org, check out our website, which has all of the details of the stuff that's going on in our ecosystem. You can go to vbetter.com, where you can see all of the applications I've talked about today and go and browse those. You can apply for grants if you're a builder or founder out there, or if you're a brand, a sports team, an organization of any kind that's looking to use that kind of gamification and fan engagement technology. You can go to vbetter.com for the white paper also. And if you want to follow me, I'm only on LinkedIn. I'm a bit of a minimalist when it comes to socials. So if you want to check out the stuff that I post and my podcast that I do occasionally, you can go to LinkedIn and you go and find me, Anthony Day. There's kind of only one of me that looks like this. So go type in Anthony Day on LinkedIn and you can follow the stuff that I do there.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
Jamil, it's been a great pleasure. Thank you so much for finally getting this to happen, and have a great rest of your day.